The king has died, and you, as one of the king's children, are vying for control of the land. Will you be one of the greatest nobles that ever lived, bringing happiness and joy to your people? That's what we'll find out today in Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming back to the Dice Odyssey. I'm Kaz, and today we're going to be talking about Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. And this, it's funny, when you first look at this game, a lot of people thought the same way I did. It looked more kind of like a warish style game, a lot of battle, a lot of mayhem and destruction, but it really is more just area control, resource management with a splash of engine building, just a tiny hint of it, right? And at the same time, it is, like I say, the area control, there's not as much battling as you might think. There's very little comparatively to what it looks like. And I was really excited to try this out because I don't know, I just like unique looking, innovative style actions and mechanisms in games. We're going to go ahead and get into it. Just a general quick brief overview, not going to hit every rule necessarily, just to give you the spirit and idea of the game. Then we're going to come back to my final thoughts. That's going to include pros, cons, and a final rating. The goal of Rurik is to be the person with the most points at the end of 4 rounds. That person will be declared the winner and ruler of all the land. You'll keep track of some of your points on the claim board. This is in and of itself a race. Once you move up on the track, even if you lose control of certain areas of that track, you do not move back down. Now, there are many different kinds of leaders that you can choose from in the game. For example, you can choose Sudaslav. You may spend attack points as muster points instead to muster troops in Sudaslav's region. You have Boris. When you attack an opponent in Boris's region, reveal 1 less scheme card and steal 1 coin from that opponent. Agatha. When you move Agatha, you may move up to 2 of your troops along with her for free, and so on and so forth. Every round, each region is going to produce a type of good. On your player board, you've got this boat that's going to be able to carry all sorts of different kinds of resources. Now, if you're able to gain enough resources to fill up a specific area, say this stone, if you have 2 stones here at the end of every round, when you do your claim phase, you'll be able to gain a coin. If you were able to fill up all of these, you could gain up to 5 coins per round. You also have conversion tokens, which allow you to trade resources you may have to be able to muster or even build a building on the board. Now, you've got several different types of cards that you'll be able to gain in the game. First thing, let's look at the agenda cards. Every person's going to get at least 1 to play with, and it's basically like a goal for the end of the game. For example, you have the Conquering. Finish in first place on the warfare track scores you 2 extra points. You have the Esteemed. Occupy the most regions with your troops. You also have deed cards that you can gain, and if you can complete these, you'll be able to gain something off the card. For example, you have a tithe payment. If you can build 3 churches in adjacent regions, you gain 3 coins. Strategy board is divided into 6 different columns, and each with a different kind of action you can bid to do. And there's a different efficiency of each action. For example, you have the muster. It allows you 3 helmets to muster. That means you'd be able to put 3 soldiers out. But if you chose the bottom one, or you were forced down to the bottom one, you'd have to pay a coin to muster 1 soldier. The top part of the scheme track is you can get the first player token, which is the bear, and you can choose 3 scheme cards and keep 1 of them. You can choose to muster. All you do is you place 1 troop for each helmet in a region you occupy. You can move. You can actually move 1 troop into an adjacent region. Each boot represents 1 movement point, and so you could mix that up 2 or 3 different kinds of soldiers. You can move 1 soldier 3 times, however you want to do it. You have attack. You remove an opposing troop from a region you occupy. Now, if it's a rebel, you can gain a reward underneath. If you can attack an opponent and remove their soldier, you'll have to draw scheme cards. And there's different rules for however many you would have to draw. If you draw a scheme card with this icon at the bottom, you lose a soldier. Now, you do not have to do this if you take out a rebel. You can tax a region. You can spend your tax points, and you can gain resources. Now, if you happen to rule in a region, it's only going to cost you 1 tax point. If you do not rule, it's going to cost you 2 for each resource. Now, ruling is going to be determined in how much power you have versus everyone else. For example, if you're the yellow player, right now you have the majority rule in this region. Even though red's got 2, you've got 3, and a rebel only has 1. Now, if it was like this, you would only occupy the region because red would be matching you. You can also build in a region, and the same instructions still apply for ruling or not ruling in a region, however many build points you get. Now, you could build a church. When you build this, you remove an opposing troop from that region and you place one of your troops there. You could build a market. Now, if you tax a region with your market in it, you can collect an extra good of the same type from the supply, or you can gain a coin. You can build a fortress. It counts as one of your troops for rule of the region. Also, opponents reveal an extra scheme card when they attack you in this region, so they can possibly take more casualties. You can also take the scheme action. Let's take a look at some of these scheme cards. For example, you can use this scheme card to gain 2 coins. You can use this scheme card to gain more movement power. You could use this scheme card to actually get a deed card with it. Now let's take a look at how the strategy board works. Now, you'll have advisors numbered 1 through 5. You'll gain more advisors on the 3rd and 4th round of the game. In this case, a strategy board works. You could put a 4-power advisor on the muster action. Say the red player wants that same spot you're in with the muster action, and they decide to put a 4 down. Well, they can't beat your 4 with their 4, so they would go right underneath your muster action. However, they could bribe with coins, and they could put any number of coins that they want on there. So as long as they put enough coins to beat your number 4, they would move theirs above and put yours below. Now, coins do not affect initiative, meaning an extra coin on this 4 is not going to now make it a 5 initiative. Normally, you cannot place another advisor in the same column with one you already have. However, if you have 3 columns already with advisors in them, you can go ahead and place another advisor in any of those 3 if you want. Once all the advisors have been placed, you now go in initiative order. And this would be an ascending order. What this basically means is all the 1s would go first, then the 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. Now, once you move past the strategy phase, you now have the action phase. Now, if you do not want to use an advisor's action, well, you can remove it and just take a coin instead. In this phase, you'll also be able to play 1 scheme card per turn. You can also accomplish 1 deed card per turn, and you could even use one of your conversion tokens. After you've done all of that, you go to the claim phase, and this is where you'd advance your markers up the claim tracks. There are other variants you can play in the game, like with intrigue cards and other things, if you so want to. There's also a solo mode included. After 4 rounds, you'll calculate all your points. Whoever has the most points at the end wins. Now let's get back to my final thoughts. First off, let's hit the pros. The production quality is absolutely gorgeous and amazing, okay? The artwork was good. I shouldn't even say good. It was absolutely phenomenal, especially on these leader cards when it comes right down to it. And I really love the whole look of it. You know what I mean? It definitely puts you there into whatever theme they're trying to sell you on. It definitely gets you there, at least in terms of the artwork. From that to the actual, the player boards and everything else, everything worked, okay? I mean, all you gotta do is look at the box art and you're sold on the art as it is. It's just a beautiful piece of artwork, This Joker had an amazing insert. It had amazing trays, and I don't know that these were game trays. I don't think they were. I could be wrong. I should have looked that up before. But it holds all of your resources very nicely, including the metal coins that come with this Joker. Oop, I'm dropping some. You can hear that in the mic. Clinkety clink love, as I call it. If you saw the unboxing, you saw me go through all of these components. I'm not going to necessarily go through it all here. Every player gets a player aid. If you've heard me harp on player aids in games that definitely necessarily need them, like Batman, go watch that video. You'll see how much I went insanely. I was so upset. Everybody at the table hated how to get into Batman because it was so hard to get into because there weren't proper player aids. Any company that gives me proper player aids for a more complex game, you're already getting high marks for me in that regard, at least on the points for that. So every player gets one of these, and you may not think that this is a problem. It has been a problem, at least for some of the games that I've seen recently. Another pro. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of what I was excited about. this action selection board, okay? Now it's double-sided for, 1 to 2 players, and I think 3 to 4. Okay, we'll stick with the 3 to 4 side. This was so interesting, all right? Taking those advisors, you have 1 through 5, and you gain more advisors as the game goes along, which is nice. And it changes your strategy and your tactics up a bit. Very tactical, but also very strategic. You're planning, you're bidding for your actions, right? If you want to muster, bring more troops onto the board. Well, if you take a 5 advisor, well, that's going to be one of your later actions because the actions go 1 to 5, right? And it's the difference between power and initiative. Now, this is a thing that's going to get you, I think. If you get into this game, you're going to love this probably. The fact that if you put a 1 advisor out there, well, somebody could knock you out of the place with a higher power advisor, and the fact that you can bribe, meaning add coins to that advisor to make it more powerful. That does not increase your initiative, all right? If you saw in the overview, you saw some of this, but it can knock somebody out of that higher powered version of that action. For example, on muster, I could do a 3, but if I get knocked down to a 2, I'm losing a little bit, but I can still do it. I could possibly be knocked down all the way to the bottom, and I got to pay a coin out of pocket for it. That sucks, but at least I'm able to still do it, right? But the thing is, yeah, you have higher powered advisors you can stick out there to muscle in people off of where you were or where they were, but then those higher power advisors, they go later because it goes in initiative order from 1 to 5. The 1s will go first. Doesn't matter what the bribe is. Those 1s, the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, and the 5s, that's how it goes in that order. This is one of the most intense things I've played in a game in a while in terms of you're bluffing each other out. It's really a bluffing game. And you're really trying to think 2 or 3 steps ahead. And it's very pronounced in a 2-player game. Very pronounced because it's just boom, 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 boom. This was probably my favorite part of the game. This is really going to get your thinking cap on as you're trying to deduce. You're looking at the board and you're going, okay, my friend is placed here. They're probably going to tax that spot and get more resources. Should I try to go into their area and outrule them? And see, that's the other thing I liked about the game. You would think that you're going to sit here and have a huge battle every few rounds or every few turns. That's not necessarily the case. You may have complete rounds where there's no fighting whatsoever. And if you do fight, most of the time it's a skirmish because even on the player board, you're only getting a couple of swords, and 1 sword means you kill 1 person, right? And there's some rules to go along with that, but I love that the primary focus was not just attacking the whole time. There was a lot of strategic maneuvering on the board. It's area control. You're just trying to have more power in a specific region than another person. Also like that most of your leader powers were completely different. It's all asymmetrical. And so wherever your leader is in a particular region, you're going to gain benefits off of it. Just to give you an example of one I loved, in Yaroslav's region, you win ties for rule and your opponents lose the abilities of their structure. So even if they've built a fortress which can take me down in terms of my amount of rule and power in battles and things like that, this stops them if my leader's there. Another pro were those scheme cards. I like the fact that I'm not just tied down to this action selection board and how I placed, because somebody could have knocked me out of a certain placement that I wanted. Well, on my turn, I can still play a scheme card, which might give me a little bit of extra muster, a little bit of extra movement. I can still tax if I need to. Somebody move me out of my tax bracket. That sounds funny. And they hurt me on that, but I still have a scheme card that can help me in the long run. I can do one of those a turn. I love that. Now, what happens with player counts? I liked it even at solo, okay? And I'm not a solo gamer, big time like a lot of people are. Playing this at the other player counts, 2, 3, 4. I think 3 and 4 are gonna be your sweet spots. 2 was decent, but I do prefer it at the higher player count. And the game moves along at a very quick clip. We were very surprised. It has a bit of a ramping up effect as you go. I think the first 2 rounds, you're kind of setting up your strategy and obviously there's some tactics involved with that. You get to round 3 and then round 4 and you get extra advisors. That's when the game started slowing down a little bit because now you're starting to see what you were doing at the beginning planning stages. You're starting to see it come to fruition. Now, obviously somebody can mess you over with that, but it felt satisfying. At first we thought this game was going to go too quickly. Like you didn't have enough time to really complete everything. There is that feeling at the beginning. It really is. You can really play this mean if you want to, right? But I like the idea that there's a choice in that. There was one instance where a friend of mine decided that he did his move action with his advisor. Well, I was next in line and my next action was an attack, and I was going to attack the rebel and gain resources off of it. But because this person brought their leader directly into my line of sight, into my region, I decided to kill them instead. You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't like doing that all the time, but this person is extraordinarily good at strategy, and I was trying to break their back early on so they couldn't win. Ultimately, they ended up winning, but, you know, it is what it is. So you do have the choice there of how mean that you want to play, and that's a good thing. It gives people options, you know. You don't have to just kill everybody to always win. Now, were there any cons of the game? I mean, anything I say could possibly be more subjective, but when it comes to the two-player edition of the game, it depends on the person you're playing with. It becomes a bit more of a knife fight, because when you have a higher player count, you know, there's a bit more randomization in the game because you don't know what that other person might possibly do, if they're going to attack you or attack the other person, or just stay where they are and just tax their land and this, that, and the other. In a two-player game, it seems to be more highly strategic. You're definitely more crushed together in terms of the board because the outer areas of the board are cut off. You can't go and use them. And so the game it's almost like Kemet, where it's kind of forcing you to attack each other, or forcing you together at least. You don't necessarily have to attack, but if you want to win, you may have to do a little bit of bludgeoning. You know what I'm saying? And so some people may or may not like that. Another possible con is if somebody's AP, very AP, they might really freeze up a little bit when it comes to this action selection board, because you're really trying to think 2 to 3 moves ahead. It is possible somebody's going to take a longer amount of time on their turn. The downtime could creep up with AP style players. Okay, so where do I stand on a final rating? This is not a hard one to say. I'm not going to just go, you know, mind blown and I'm going crazy about it. This isn't that type of game for me. I will say this though. If this game did not have this fun, it feels very unique style of system for the auction and bidding of your actions and things, I wouldn't enjoy this game hardly as much. This would be lower. Without this game turns into a 5 or 6 for me. With this game gets up to an 8 for me. All right, this is like a game in and of itself. You're gonna spend a lot of time planning out your movements, trying to figure out what the other players are gonna do. Are they gonna bump you out of the way? Should I add a bribe, you know? And you're gonna have that push and pull of, oh my gosh, if I add a bribe here, I won't be able to use a coin later on to activate the scheme card. And that part of the game for me was my favorite part. So how about you? Have you played Rurik yet? What did you think of it? But anyway, thank you so much again. You have a blessed day, and game away. This video is brought to you by Fallen Dominion Studios. Check out their website at fallendominionstudios.com.